Hello, welcome to Hat Trick. I am Jordan Dowler-Coltman. I am joined by Braydon Dowler-Coltman and Elliott Tanti. We were off last week for Easter. We are back on the eve of the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Before we get to it, Elliott, I have to ask you, how devastated do you think those poor Canadian women are tonight after being tied 3-3 with 5 minutes left in the gold medal game, the IIHF Women's World Championship, and taking two penalties on the same play, going down 5-3 on a penalty kill, and giving up two goals, both to Hillary Knight on the same penalty kill to lose that hockey game? They ended up also giving him, allowing an empty net goal, so it ended up being a 3-goal lead. But 6-3, that's the final. They lose the gold medal to the Americans, and it's like, just as you think you're about to go to overtime, your fortunes change. We're not going to talk about this on the show, but this is just a long-winded intro. How do you feel like that? How do you think that feels, I guess, is the question. Like, how devastating must that be?
Well, it just goes to show you, like, these best of one games, everything on the line, anything can happen at any given point. And, it was, I didn't see the play yet, so I don't know how to feel about the calls, but it was what it was. You got to try and get through that. You can't. And I'm sure there's a lot of shock and dismay tonight on that team and amongst that group, the organizers there.
What was weird about it, and again, we're not going to belabor it because it's an extra topic. This is bonus coverage.
I didn't watch it for exactly that reason.
Why? Because you were terrified of
anything could happen, and that's what happened.
What was sad about it in the moment was it looked like both of the two goals on the power play were like plays that could have been challenged. One for offside and one for high sticking, and they either chose not to or were not given the opportunity to challenge them. It sounded like the commentators thought that the first one, the coach just waited too long, but he should have challenged it. And the second one looked like a high stick to me, at least. But either way, that's how the cookie crumbles, unfortunately. Hillary Knight got a hat trick in that hockey game. So congratulations to them. They're a very good program down there, and we know that the Americans and the Canadians have a very heated rivalry in women's hockey. We have lots to talk about today, lots of heated rivalries to get to, and we will do that now. Let's get to it. Here's topic one. Okay, so the hockey that we're going to all be focused on. Sorry, Elliott, are you doing your laundry?
Elliott's folding his clothes.
Yeah,
he's on a time, man.
I guess this is an audio medium.
We could do this in an hour, Elliott. You got to finish your load.
All right, we're going to play an impromptu game. We're going to see if we can get topic one done before he's finished folding his laundry. For all of those playing at home, Braydon will keep score.
He sped up.
All right. I'll start over. No, what I was trying to say is we are about to have the playoffs begin. We are on the eve of the playoffs. We're going to do two topics today on the playoffs. We're going to start talking about our Oilers. We are all admitted homers on this show. So if you came here to hear about the Oilers, don't worry. We will get to it right now. If you came here to hear about us pretend like we know anything about any of the other teams, we'll do that in topic two. Elliott, the Edmonton Oilers go into the first round of the playoffs against a very familiar foe. We played the LA Kings last year in round one, squeaking out of it in game 7, a much tighter series than any Oiler fan was hoping for last year. Learned a lot about that opponent, get to see them again here. Now, the Oilers go in on an absolute heater, 9 consecutive wins, ties a club record. Stuart Skinner plays phenomenally. He actually broke the all-time Oilers record for wins by a goaltender in a season, breaking the record held by Grant Fuhrer from back in 82 or 3. Check that one. But the Oilers' depth scoring has played really well. The defense has played really well. We saw over the course of those 9 games them win different types of hockey games, from behind with a lead, from tied with 3 or 4 minutes left, and including some overtime wins. So we've seen that they have found a way to win, and that's what we want to have. But we remember what happened last year against LA. You know, you came out to a slow start, got kind of punched in the mouth in game 1, and then bounced back with 2 big games. And it went seesawing all the way through. We had to win game 6 to get home ice back for game 7. Where are you emotionally heading into this first round? Expectation wise, we know the expectations are high as hell. It's cup or bust at this point for this team.
Whoa.
Well, it is. That's what the expectations are.
Finals
to be fair, I think it's cup or bust.
I guess the finals means cup.
And the reality is, I think that is fair expectations given the talent that's here. We saw Connor McDavid setting records, all of those things. So, Elliott, I ask you emotionally, where are you? Eve now this people listening to this, it's the morning of game
And
one.
he's finished his laundry, I think. We
Well,
should have made
No,
that
I've still
segment.
got
How
there's a
quick
pile
can we
here.
get Jordan's
intro done.
preamble done before?
There's still quite the pile here. How am I feeling emotionally? Pretty good. The Oilers are a better team than they were last year. LA might be a better team than they were last year, but I'm not convinced of that. I think we played them down the stretch here twice, two really hard fought games, but two games the Oilers managed to squeak out and win. All that stuff about how hot the team is going into the playoffs, though, the year that they've had. I mean, it's new season. The season's over. It's a completely new thing now, playoffs, and it's going to be game by game by game, and that's how we're going to all live and die for the next however long this goes for the Oilers. So I'm prepared for that. I'm just not putting too much stock in how hot the team was going into the end of the season here. I think overall the Oilers are a better team than they were last year, and so that gives me at least somewhat confidence that they are going to win this series. And frankly, they're the favorite, so that's the place you want to be.
So I'll ask you the same question, Braydon. Emotionally, you're going into game one of this series. All of the preamble aside, how do you feel about it?
Happy. I feel happy that
Okay.
we are here at this part of the season again. We are facing a familiar foe this part of the season again. And yeah, I think this is they've put themselves in a very good position at the deadline and beyond the deadline, which is what all teams want to be doing moving into the playoffs. There are some very, very good teams out east that I think for any team in the playoffs would be nervous about, but we wouldn't have to face that, and we would only have to face one of them. So I think there's a lot of really great things that um, uh, just kind of play into the Oilers. Like all of it moving into the playoffs, the schedule, the way that the depth is there, the way that the health of the team has maintained in the latter half of the season. Frankly, most of the season, some of those important players have been able to focus on scoring points instead of getting back from injury. So I'm feeling very happy.
Well, there's one player that is the exception to that, and that's Evander Kane, who obviously was absolutely critical for the Oilers last year against the Kings and loves to beat the Kings. He's played really well against them with the Oilers. He played well against with San Jose. Numbers wise, it's one of the teams he seems to get up to play against. So the question is, how do we think this team approaches this first round? We know that these two teams match up well as far as they're both offensive minded teams, but that can play defense. LA definitely more so than Edmonton, and LA defensively all season and in the three games we saw and in last season's first round series matches up really well defensively. They know how to set out guys to shut down Connor, and that secondary scoring will be important throughout a full series, right? Obviously, there's going to be nights when Connor gets through and makes big plays, and we know that Leon will do the same. But they're going to be physical. They're going to be at them. What do you think the X factor is for the Oilers, Elliott? What do for them to succeed in this year's version of this matchup? What must happen?
Their defense must remain healthy. If there's the team is much deeper than it was last year, but where there still is a struggle is defensive depth. I like the 6/7 guys that they have right now, but if you start running into issues. One of the top four guys, God forbid, faces an injury. That's going to be really difficult for this team to overcome, and that's probably the greatest weakness there. What's the X factor on that? I think Matthias Ekholm. I think that what he brings to the back end, the stability, what we've seen him do up until this point, and how he's fit into this team, really is what makes this a really, for me, like I feel a lot different going into this series than I did last year. I think last year I picked LA and was almost right. This year I feel very confident picking Edmonton, and it's just because of that him and the other additions to the deadline as well too.
So I'll flip it around for you, Braydon. Play the devil's advocate for me. What's the X factor for LA? What does LA need to do to shut down these high flying Oilers right now?
Frankly, it would be the same answer that I would give for what the Oilers' X factor is, and that's goaltending. I think that the Oilers have for a fact, they're the number one team in the league for goals for. So the and they did add a very good goaltender against Edmonton in Corpusalo this year specifically. He's a great goaltender. I think who's the other guy? Phoenix Copley has been having a pretty special year too. So the only difference, well, there's no difference, I guess, because Skinner hasn't had that much experience in the playoffs. But all of those goalies are young. They're all Corpusalo's not a rookie, but he's still a very young goaltender with not a lot of playoff experience. So I think that the goaltending has to be really solid for LA to have a chance at slowing down the 158 point score.
Yeah,
and beyond.
I agree with you. I think that's a
yeah.
critical thing for both teams. Obviously, you need Stuart Skinner to play really well. The factor for the LA last year that really kept them in the series early after game 2 and 3, where they were still pummeled, was that Jonathan Quick had that experience to be able to bounce back in games 4 and 5. And they obviously won both of those games on his back in many ways. Now, you have Drew Doughty healthy, you have some depth that's there. Guys like Dursey are going to be a factor because they're physical, they're big, they're going to make it difficult in the middle. But the real big question is, where can the Oilers expose LA's sort of vulnerabilities? And I think the biggest thing is, if you can get up on this team early and get them chasing, then the game will open up to the Oilers' benefit. If it's a tight 1 or 2 goal game like we saw recently against them, we can see that these two teams can check each other into the ground, and they actually match up very well in some ways that way. LA is not a very fast strike team. They like to set up on the cycle, and that's hard when you've got guys like Ekholm and Bouchard playing really well right now in terms of breaking up cycle and moving the puck. Even Nurse has done really well since Ekholm comes in. And I think that a lot of people have obviously talked a lot about the impact of Ekholm, but I would make the argument that Ekholm was 3 for the price of 1 in so many ways. You lose Barry, and yes, that's a high price, and including a first and what you give up for him. But when you get Ekholm in there, not only are you adding an absolute blue chipper, number 1 first pairing defenseman in the NHL, one of the top guys of his generation in terms of how he's played. Really, he's got to be in the top 10 of his grouping of players, and steady and calm, not flashy, not up there like a William Karlsson making a bunch, or Eric Karlsson making a bunch of noise on score sheets, although he has put pucks in the net. But he plays defense soundly, like Chris Pronger did, like Jason Smith did, like guys we've seen in the past when they have had success, right? The big difference is that he has awoken something in Evan Bouchard. He's become a steady partner that has allowed this younger player, who at times was kind of erratic in his play, to really stabilize. He's played fantastic on the power play, and in his own zone has gotten a lot better defending. And then the other players, Darnell Nurse has had a lot of his minutes reduced in healthy ways. Not that Darnell couldn't carry those minutes, but he couldn't play, I believe, to his truest potential. Well, he couldn't play to his truest potential when he was having to be out there for over 30 minutes a game. It was ridiculous. Now he's able to share that workload, and it makes, when he's out there, him a lot more effective.
With a player that's just as intimidating as him.
Agreed.
Agreed. That's the nice thing.
That's the value.
It's not, you're not, easing off of something and getting something different. Like, Karlsson would have been a different kind of an addition than I think Ekholm brings. He's a remarkable passer, and the fact that he looks terrifying as a man. Like, he's a beautiful man, but a terrifyingly intimidating person on the ice. So it's great.
You're right. I've got 2 more questions for us as we wrap up this segment. The first one is this: who preemptively, you have to put some money down on who you believe is the first round Fernando Pisani? Who is the unsung hero for this Oilers team? Who could it be? Now, last year, obviously Kane overachieved with what his expectations were, but he's a top 6 guy. He should be performing at that level. So it's not him. But who is the guy you look at on this roster who has a chance to have one of those breakout playoff series where, he pots 2 or 3 over a couple games, one of those games where it's just not flying for McDavid and Draisaitl, this guy's able to get in there? Who would you put your money down on, Elliott?
Bukestad, 100%. I think the size that he brings, he's built for the playoffs. I really like his addition. And he's scored 17 goals this season. Like, but he's a bottom 6 guy. There's no reason why they can't be looking to him to add some additional depth, and he might be one to watch, I think.
Braydon, who you got?
I think it's going to be, I would love to see it as one of the depth forwards, but I actually really want to see it be Evan Bouchard. I actually want to see our power play be as successful in this playoff round. Evan Bouchard.
He's going in hot for sure.
Going in really hot, and he's in a position now too to be on those, odd man.
Well, I mean, if you're Todd McClellan right now, the number one thing you have to be preaching in every pregame is discipline, discipline, discipline. You cannot take penalties against this team. It's just not.
They know that.
They know that
season.
for sure.
Yeah,
I will round it out, and I'll say it's Matthias Ekholm.
Who's scoring goals?
No, Matthias Ekholm.
Janmark.
That's what I meant.
26.
Yeah, the other Matthias.
Yeah.
Janmark. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think Janmark has played really well in the last couple of games, which means it's a great place for him to go into the playoffs. But I also think that he represents something that is an unsung part, I think, of this team. But recently actually has gotten a lot more attention, which I think is important going into the playoffs, which is that one of the things the Oilers struggled with for so long because of just how they were built was that your depth was often young, inexperienced players.
Yeah.
And we have seen the value of having experienced depth. Older guys, middle-aged guys, and I mean like 30-year-olds, but the guys that are at the midpoint of their career where they have had enough experience to be able to hold themselves through difficult patches in the season and then still find productivity when the opportunity is there, right? I think that when you look at it and you compare it to teams we saw in like the mid 2010s, where your depth was all either rookies or guys who had basically been found on some beer league team because that's all they could manage to get on this team. We're talking Janmark, we're talking Devin Shore when he's up, Warren Fogle even, who I think also has more ceiling than he has gotten to. How many breakaways has he missed on? But those opportunities are there because he's putting himself in the right positions. He's fast, he's strong, he's physical. Derek Ryan, Bukestad now, even a young guy like Klim Kostin isn't as exposed because he's surrounded by veteran players and it's making him a better hockey player. And I think that is a great benefit the Oilers have. They have never had in recent history in terms of that level of experienced depth. And I think that's why I think Janmark could really jump out and be a breakout player here in the playoffs. He's going to be in opportunities. He's going to have opportunities because when the other matchups are focused on those top two lines and that third or fourth line comes out to generate some energy after a penalty kill or something like that, they're going to get chances. And we've seen they can bury them. Okay, final thing here. We'll do this in the next round for everybody else, but we have to do it now. You got to make your picks here. I think we're all in consensus that we have the Oilers. The question is how many games do you think it goes, Elliot? First off, is the laundry done?
You can't even see him. Okay,
laundry's done. Okay, good. Well done. Congratulations. When's the next load up?
No, this is it. We're done for the night.
Okay, great. All right. What was the number you gave me?
5.
Break it down for me. Who wins game 1 and how's the series go?
I think you got to give if the Oilers win the 2 at home, they probably split back in LA and then they're back in Edmonton for game 5 and that's a celebration game. That's what I see it. That's how I see it breaking down.
Braydon?
I think at first I thought 5 as well, but I actually think that they're going to be by the end of the week, which is when Elliott needs to do his laundry again. So I'm predicting a sweep, and I'll break it down for you. The Oilers will win the first game, and then they're going to win the second, and then third, and the fourth as well.
Nice. All right, I'm going to go with 6. Here's my logic. I think that they win. I think they split the games at home. I think they win the games on the road. I think they lose at home and they have to go back to LA to win it in 6. That's what I think. So I think it's a bit of a seesaw thing. I think the Oilers get up in the series and the LA Kings just don't go down without a fight, but we'll see. All right, that is topic 1.
Topic 2 this week is brought to us by Ellipses Thinking. Ellipses Thinking is the newest podcast from the Ordinary Podcasting Network. Host Greg Dowler-Coltman shares his conversations with people actively engaged in their own creative adventures, those who identify as artists, and those who choose to experience life through an artistic lens. They shed light on relationships that shape and inspire us as we meet the challenges, discoveries, and learnings we make when we courageously invite our creative spirit forth. You can subscribe or follow anywhere you get your podcasts.
We're going to rip through this here because there's obviously a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the rest of the playoffs, the rest of the matchups, and we'll do a really quick sort of around the league. I guess the easiest thing to start here is of all of these matchups, and I can run them down if you don't remember them all. But I'll assume you've done some homework. Of all these matchups, which series outside of the Oilers are you most intrigued by or most sort of interested in seeing how it plays out? Braydon.
Well, the Winnipeg Jets kind of snuck in, so I'm curious if the Vegas Golden Knights get complacent and we have a pretty heated battle there. I think, Tampa Bay and Toronto have been tied together for quite a while now that they're going to be facing off together. I mean, Boston, that's they've had a absolutely career, or not career, but record-breaking season, and so it would be surprising to see if that can maintain itself in the playoffs. I don't see why it wouldn't, but crazier things have happened in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Elliot, any of these series jump out at you? Intriguing
Oh,
storylines?
it has to be Tampa Bay Toronto. I mean, if Toronto's not able to do it, there is so much riding on that series for Toronto. And it's just like kind of the worst possible first round matchup for them, all things considered. So that's going to be the one to watch, I think, is Toronto Tampa Bay.
So I have a not a conspiracy theory. That's not the right word for it. I have like a theory, I guess, or a hot take, or it's a premise I have here, and I'd like to run it by you. Is it not in the Oilers' best interest for the Maple Leafs to go on a long run here? Because it takes a lot of the national media pressure off of the Edmonton Oilers and the expectations that are already there. Now, obviously, the local media is still going to be all over this, but there's such expectations on the Oilers that if all the attention is drawn towards some kind of run by the Maple Leafs here, let's say they get through Tampa Bay, they're into the second round and they're up in a series or something. Let's say they even get to their own Eastern Conference final. Now, obviously, none of us want to face Toronto in the finals because that kind of media circus would be insane. But let's say they got at least into the second round here for the first time and all the focus is on them. Doesn't it just at least take some of the extra pressure off the Oilers to have the Maple Leafs be the sort of
the shield?
Well, just the distraction, because all TSN or all Sportsnet is going to talk about is the Toronto Maple Leafs. So at least from the Oilers' perspective, they get to fly a little bit more under the radar, don't they?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't think anyone's not going to be watching the Edmonton LA series while Toronto plays Tampa in the first round. I do hear what you're saying. I think the firestorm and the craziness around Toronto would probably maintain through the second round should they lose. Yeah, I mean, maybe there's something to that. I don't know. I don't know that there's going to be any, like, there's going to be craziness around every Canadian team that's in the playoffs.
I only ask Elliot because if you were to pull up TSN right now, you wouldn't know until about the 7th or 8th scroll of your finger that the Oilers were even in it. In fact, the first story about the Oilers here on TSN is that they've signed Dineen to a 1-year contract at a minor league level.
Hell yeah. We need that.
But there's literally no coverage. They've got one story here about the Jets, and then they finally get to it where the headline is Oilers enter playoffs with similar confidence to last year, right? But that is after 8 different stories and or videos about the Maple Leafs. So I'm just saying, if you want to at least keep those, a little bit of the heat off, I don't know, maybe it's to your advantage.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Anyway, that wasn't that. I digressed. So let's go through these series really quick here. Just give us your thoughts and perspective on them, and we'll make some picks. So first up, we have the Islanders and the Hurricanes. I say first up just because that's when the games start tomorrow. So I'm going in order of appearance here. Their series starts tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific time. I'm going off my phone, so that's where we're at. That's like 7 p.m. Eastern. Islanders, Hurricanes. This is an interesting one from my perspective because, again, these are two teams that have recently kind of gone through rebuilds and are at the point where there's real question marks about whether or not it's going to work with the kind of core that they've both built. Obviously, the Hurricanes have a lot of young and exciting and explosive talent, but, can they put it together? So I'll go to you first, Elliot. Do you want to make a pick in this series? And if not, that's kind of that's what this segment is. So you have to make a pick.
So a number of injuries, key injuries to Carolina heading into the playoffs. So I think if they're down on a bunch of people's lists. But yeah, Rod Brind'Amour is just too good of a coach to give this one up easily. And I think this might be an upset. I think a lot of people are going to assume that the Islanders are going to run right through Carolina. I don't think it's going to be that easy. I'm going to take Carolina in 7.
Did you just? I'm going to digress again because I think it's interesting. Did any of you catch the conversation that Rod Brindamore recently had with Elliot Friedman about refereeing? Did
Yes,
you see that,
100%.
Braydon? So I'll give you the Coles notes. I think it's worth listening to in full because he obviously describes this much better. It's his idea, but he had a conversation about how he felt like every single penalty should be video reviewed. And obviously Elliot Friedman was like, that should take forever. He goes, no, not in the system that I'm proposing, which is that you have one referee on the ice and you have two in the penalty box on video monitors. Yeah. And when a penalty is called, immediately or when a goal is scored in either of those two situations, you have immediately those two referees watching replays that are fed to them instantly. And the same way we at home are, right? We're immediately all being home coach referees. The referees only get to see the reviews if there's a challenge. Whereas in this situation, every single one of their calls would be given a second opinion. And those referees could make those judgment calls immediately. Maybe you go to a commercial timeout, which often happens anyway, but there would be a time limit. They'd make a decision and they could jump in and say, actually, no, the call's wrong, or there is a penalty on that play. They also would be able to jump in. I think his actual first premise was there wouldn't even be a referee on the ice. They'd only be watching the videos, and the linesman would basically be the only two guys on the ice. Also, a lot more room on the ice, a lot less like strange bounces off of skates and stuff. But the idea being, well, they could still jump on the ice if there's like a melee, I believe was his language, to intercede in a scrum or something. Anyway, something to think about, something to look at. Maybe we'll have a further conversation about refereeing later. But Elliott takes the Hurricanes in 7. Braydon.
I think the Hurricanes in 5. Again, the Islanders just snuck in there. They're a pretty good team right now, but I think the Carolina Hurricanes are in a position kind of like Colorado was in last year.
Thank goodness Elliott finished his laundry. Now he can keep score for us. I will take the Islanders. I don't know why. I have a feeling the Islanders look good and feel good this year. They're a team I like. I think the Hurricanes are really good, but I have a feeling they might be one of those teams at this stage just is a little bit too big for them. There's just some weird pieces. And yes, Pouliot, he plays for them. So
I think he's gotten 0 points since.
Yeah, probably. All right, let's. And I'll take them in. I'll take them in 5. No, I'll take them in 6. The Hurricanes aren't going to go down without a fight here, but I think that's a flaw for them. I couldn't even tell you who the Hurricanes goalie is. What is it? Ranta? Who's their goaltender?
Ranta?
Exactly. So I don't even know who they're.
Kochetkov is their young rookie guy.
Okay, so I'm not sure. All right, let's go to game 2 up on the schedule. Freddie Anderson's their goaltender? Oh, well, that changes everything. No, it doesn't. 4:30 p.m. Pacific. That is 7:30 p.m. I don't know why I'm saying this. I'm assuming there's Panthers fans who are wondering what time their game starts while they're listening to this podcast from out west.
There's a lot of Panthers fans in
Bruins, Panthers. We've already kind of touched on it. The Bruins, obviously, I mean, they set an NHL record for points in a season. Pretty prolific and pretty impressive. I believe they lost less than 20 games on the year. 13, I think, in regulation. Pretty crazy. Amazing. Both goaltenders hot. Both goaltenders playing really, really well going into the playoffs, which is obviously something you want, but it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with that. I mean, obviously it's Allmark's net.
Yeah.
But if he gets hurt, they've got a backup guy. The question is, as Elliott said, you have a whole new season here. And I mean, anything can happen. But is it possible the Bruins are losing to the Florida Panthers?
No.
And Matthew Tkachuk?
No.
Braydon, who and how many?
Bruins in 4. I think the Bruins have a date with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
All right.
And a game 7 win in the second round.
Well, we're already getting there. Okay. We'll be a few weeks from making that prediction, but we'll write it down anyway. So we're ready for it. Elliott, you wanna take the Panthers?
No. But I'm not going to take Boston in 4. I think it's going to be Boston in 6, and this is going to be a lot closer series than you guys are anticipating.
All right, I'm going to take Boston in 5 because I think they lose game 1 and everyone panics, and then they shut it down. It's some weird fluky goal. Like it goes in off of like Bergeron's nose or something. Like literally like just a weird last-minute mistake or something, and then everyone goes, oh my God, look, Boston's paper thin. And it's like, no, they're fine. They're really good.
Florida's got a good team too.
Yep. Okay. Game 1 of the Wild Stars goes 6:30 p.m. Pacific, and that makes it 9:30 Eastern. Wild Stars. This is the Battle of Stars because this is the former North Stars city in Minnesota. The Dallas Stars obviously used to be Minnesota for those really long in the tooth here, but we know what the Dallas Stars did last year against the Calgary Flames. Obviously, they lost in round one, but Ottinger was unbelievable and had a lot of an impact on how that series went. I believe either 6 or 7 games. The Flames could barely get a goal in on them. They were winning one or 2 goals at max. The Wild, scrappy, messy team. We saw that just absolute melee of a game against Winnipeg near the end of the season when Winnipeg was scrapping to try to get into the playoffs. This could get ugly. This could get physical, but the Stars are what, second in the division?
Yeah,
and led the division for a long time.
Yeah.
So, Elliot, who do you have there? Minnesota or Dallas?
I took Minnesota last year. They broke my heart, and because I said, well, this is what I said last year was that was their final season to have ever a chance of this, and it seems like they're better this year. Look, I'm a sucker. I'm going to take Minnesota, but I'm going to take Minnesota in 7.
You sucker.
Well, I like that because I think you're right. I think that last year they were really good. I think they're good this year. I don't know if they're as good, but they have one thing clear that they were unclear of last year, and that was who their goaltender was. This is Marc-Andre Fleury's team right now. And I think that they're just going to go into this playoffs a little bit more comfortable. We'll see what happens. But I put a lot of weight on the physicality of the series. I'm not sure the Dallas Stars are I think the Dallas Stars are right at that teetering point before being a rebuild as their veterans kind of age out, right? I think this is, if not the end for Jamie Benn, it's got to be close. And yet they've been playing really, really well. So I'll take Minnesota in 6.
Same.
Nice.
I know, actually, for a different reason than both of you. They've got an influx of young talent that have been very good this year. Matt Boldy is constant point producer. I think if they can shut down Jason Robertson on the Dallas Stars, I think he's in the top 5. He took Huberdeau's spot in the top 5 for scoring this year. There's going to be a high offense, I predict, in that series.
Okay, we'll skip the Kings and Oilers. We've made that pick already, but they play 7 p.m. Pacific. It's 8 p.m. Edmonton time. And we have the Rangers and the Devils on Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific. Rangers Devils. Here's a fun little battle of the, New York, New Jersey interstate, 2 classic teams that have had some success over the years. Big, very loud and excited fan bases on the East Coast. What do you think? Is this the year that the New York Rangers get through? Does this team that's got all of this talent up front and this fantastic goaltender in the back finally put it together and start to do a little bit of, they haven't been deep in the playoffs since they went to the finals against the Kings about half a decade ago with a very different team. But we're talking Panarin, we're talking Kane is there now, we're talking Zibanejad, we're talking about this fantastic goaltender in Shesterkin. Fox is on the back end. This is a really stacked team in so many ways. Lots of talent there. But they're up against the New Jersey Devils, who, like you said about Minnesota, young, exciting hockey team. Jack Hughes playing out of his mind. A team that, again, just found ways to win throughout the year. What do you think, Elliot? New York or New Jersey?
I'm going to take the Rangers because I low-key have Rangers winning coming out of the East. So I will take the Rangers in 5.
Yep, I would take the Rangers in 6 because I do think that Devils team is going to make it a little hard, especially at home.
Yeah, I got the Rangers in 7. I think this series goes all the way. I think that the Devils might actually get up in this series, and the Rangers will have to really sort of buckle down and win it. But I think that they have the horses to do that. All right, let's jump to the, obviously the most important series in the country, according to all of the media outlets. We've got the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning. They go 4:30 p.m. Pacific. It's 5:30 p.m. Mountain. And I don't even know, 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
I'll be there.
Yeah, the Leafs and the Lightning, what, part 4? How many first round series in a row have these two teams had to play each other?
The Leafs are in the playoffs?
Yeah, 3 in a row, I think. This is their dragon, right? This is that. It's like the Vancouver Canucks faced and lost the Blackhawks 4 times in a row. In so many ways, if the Maple Leafs can beat the Lightning in the first round here, they should be set. They should be ready to go because they've done the hard job. I'm just saying. So obviously that's the storyline. That's the expectation. And I think that there's a lot of people's jobs on the line in Maple Leaf land to make this work. Dubas included.
They made some big swings.
The huge swings, and you got a lot on the line. And there's always a lot on the line, but this team has not been out of the first round, in a decade. So they're looking for that opportunity. Elliott, who do you have here? Is this the Leafs' year, or are the Lightning still just that unbreakable Goliath?
Oh, I hate betting against Tampa Bay, but I think I'm going to take Toronto. I think this is the year they do it. And I think it's actually not close. I think I'm going to take Toronto in 5, and people will start planning the parade.
I am also taking Toronto as much as I can stand the Leafs. But I have a bit of a nice kindred friendship that I'd like to maintain at the moment with a new friend, and he's a Leafs fan. So I think they'll get.
Nobody's perfect.
I think they'll get to the second round, and I think it'll be a long, drooling 7 games, physical. They're gonna be shivering come the second round.
Would you say 7 games? 7 games.
I have the Lightning in 6.
Yeah.
I think the Leafs get up.
Nope.
And then they lose.
And they fall down.
4 straight.
Yeah, it happens.
Oh, that's so brutal, dude.
That'd be insane.
And I think that this is a series that goes to a couple games. There's a couple overtime games in this. The thing for me is there's still like this massive X factor in the fact that the greatest goalie alive, the greatest goaltender on the planet right now, plays for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And in the playoffs, we all know that a goaltender can steal you a series. And I really think that even though a lot of the Lightning players, forwards and defensemen, are longer in the tooth and have had a lot of miles on the odometer, Vasilevsky is a different animal. He's still a beast. And I think that the Tampa Bay Lightning, as much as Toronto won't want to admit this, they live rent-free in their head. This is a psychological warfare as much as anything else. And if Toronto gets up early in the series and they get a little bit confident and that foot comes off the pedal just a little bit, like, come on, this is the Tampa Bay Lightning we're talking about. Jets, Golden Knights. As Braydon said earlier, Jets sneaking into the playoffs, wildcard team. Golden Knights holding on to win the division at the end. Pretty good hockey. Yeah. The big thing here is that apparently there is going to be an NHL investigation into the circumstances surrounding Mark Stone, because there was a memo sent out just before the trade deadline, making it very clear that the NHL was going to start to crack down on teams that were using LTIR to bury cap, the way that we saw with the Kucherov situation a few years ago. Very convenient that the day after the cap is null and void and not necessary for the playoffs, Mark Stone is magically healthy. Now, obviously serious back injury, had surgery, but very convenient that he is healthy and ready to go game 1 of the playoffs. Exactly. So the NHL is going to look into that. Now, that won't affect anything this year. As we all know, leagues don't actually like to implement rules that affect teams in the moment where it actually would be a justifiable and actual, real punishment. So we won't expect anything to change.
So that means that Mike Smith can play for us this year?
Yeah, exactly. Mark Stone is healthy. Actually, it does mean Mike Smith could be your third goaltender on your roster. I'm just saying.
Imagine he comes back.
Anyway,
both the guys get injured in like third round.
Mike Smith's your guy.
Smith comes back and wins.
Golden Knights, Jets. Do the Jets have enough to overcome what has been one of the best teams in the West all year?
You asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Yes.
Okay.
I think they're going to catch Vegas flat-footed.
Interesting.
And I think that the Jets have had enough of an angry coach to spark something happening. I think, there's some crazy talents. And like you just said, who's the second best goalie right now? Very likely Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah. I did not want the Oilers to win the division.
Yeah.
I did not want to see Hellebuyck in the first round. I agree with you. He can steal a series. Yeah. And that Jets team, go back and look at that team, the game they played against Minnesota, right? They are going to physically punish the Golden Knights. And we've played the Golden Knights a few times and seen that they can get pushed around. Right? They have some big guys, but they are not a overtly physical team. And I think the Jets could do to them what they did to us a few years ago, which is surprising.
Right now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's well, and Thompson, but who went to the All-Star game for them. Yeah, it depends who's healthy, right? Because they've had a goalie carousel. All right. What was the series you had that?
I'm gonna say 6.
6. Elliott.
I disagree with you guys wholeheartedly. I don't think this is close. The Vegas Golden Knights are going to destroy Winnipeg. Winnipeg looks shaky at best heading into the playoffs. So I'm going to take the Golden Knights in 5. which is disappointing and not good for the Oilers.
I have the Golden Knights in 7. I think that the Winnipeg Jets at least keep them in a series. I think that there are some tight games. We've seen how Vegas can be beat if you play them a very specific way. And I also think that going back to what I said earlier about the Dallas Stars and Calgary, where Calgary went into last year's playoffs, do not forget, as like another very, very high expectations that they were going to go on a long run. Right. They had played a really good season, and they went in there with all the expectations that they were going to be one of the teams to beat until they caught up to Colorado in the final, like this Western Conference Finals. Like there was a lot of pressure expectations on them, and they got pummeled by the Dallas Stars. Dallas Stars former coach now coaches the Winnipeg Jets. This is a team that's well coached, well prepared. They're going to go out there. They've got a good goaltender. I think it's a 7. I still think the Golden Knights pull it out. I don't think it's a short one. I think this is going to be a trench warfare kind of thing where we're going to have like overtime games and some tight fights. Let's see. Seattle Kraken, Colorado Avalanche. They go Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific.
Poor guys.
Colorado wins the Central Division, so they get to play the wild card team from the other division, which of course is a perfect example why the division system is completely flawed and broken in the NHL.
At least they're not too far
away. The travel is so stupid. There's no reason that the Golden Knights should be playing Winnipeg and the Avalanche should be playing the Kraken. It does not make sense. I'm sorry. Anyway, that's what's happening. We have the Stanley Cup defending champions, as banged up as they are. Landeskog's now out for the year, versus the Kraken, the plucky upstarts who made it in after a pretty good year, really good year. Elliott, who do you have?
I have Colorado. I just don't think Seattle's quite there yet. I'm really happy that they're in the playoffs and they're going to get around, but that's all they'll get. I'm going to take Colorado in 5. Colorado knows how to win, right?
That is true. I think Colorado also sneaks through this series, but I think it's 6 games. I think the Kraken do have some talent there, and I think that they have the opportunity to win some hockey games. And the fans in Seattle deserve that. They had a great year. They get their first playoff taste, and I think that it'll be a good one. I think that Colorado sneaks it out in 6 then.
You want to hear a joke?
Yeah.
I think it'll be the Kraken. That was the joke. I think it will be 7 games, though, and Colorado will win.
All right, there we go. That is our rundown. Any last thoughts or questions, comments, concerns concerning the playoffs?
Is there a coach right now that is at risk of losing their job from a round 1 exit?
Yeah, in Toronto. For sure.
Tampa?
No.
He's
won them 4 Stanley Cup appearances in 5 years. No, I do think that if the if the general manager goes in Toronto, the coach goes too.
Yeah.
I think Shanahan is the only one safe in that back office, and he gets one more chance to build a team underneath it. Coaching staff wise, but I think Sheldon Keefe and what is it? Dundas? What's his name? Dubas. They're dubious at this point.
Yeah.
Elliott, do you have a thought on that before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I don't know. Let's just wait to see what happens with Toronto before we do predictions as to what's going to happen, because I'm not convinced the general manager's out if they lose in the first round this year. No, I think everyone's pretty secure. I mean,
you made the playoffs, right? You gotta feel good about that.
Yeah, 100%.
Are there any of these teams that are blow it up if it doesn't go well, like team wise?
Maybe the Jets,
because they were kind of already there. They weren't really expected to be here.
There was like a strong push for it. I think, maybe you see the Panthers kind of try something different. The Stars too, with how they, but I think for the most part, everybody's.
I mean, you made it to the dance. Something's working, right? So
yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, we will find out very shortly, within the next 48 hours, 24 hours.
Woo!
We're gonna get some playoff hockey going. It should be a lot of fun. We'll be back next week to tell you how we were all wrong and what all of these series look like after 2 or 3 games have been played. All right. That is topic 2.
Hey, I'm Sayer, and I love Marvel.
And I'm Kaylee, and I love someone who loves Marvel.
And we're watching through the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU, in release order.
There's another order.
For Kaylee's first time.
And Sayer's 85th.
Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find MCU.
And me!
Sayer's obsessed!
And Kaylee's the best!
MCU!
Okay. We're going to go to top. Sorry, are you folding more laundry now?
Yeah, I found some more.
Jeez, he's running a laundromat. All right. Topic 3 here. We're going to try to keep this brief because if you're still listening, God bless you. Baseball's back, Braydon and Elliott. I know both of you are very excited. So I'm going to give you both an opportunity to revel in the early spring of baseball, which I know is always a lot of fun. But I do have one question, and I'll start with Braydon. I have nothing prepared for the Padres, Elliott. I have no idea how their season's going. Didn't even Google it. So you're going to have to give us your Padres report here in a second. But I do have a question for Braydon about the Blue Jays. And this is not an original question. It's a question I heard on another show and got a very like wishy-washy bad answer from the guest. So I want a proper Blue Jays fan to be able to answer this for me. Mm-hmm. What's wrong with Alex Manoah? Alek Manoah.
That would be the first step.
Well, I've never seen the guy. I wouldn't even be able to pick him out of a police lineup, honestly. I wouldn't know him from a baseball player from
Nothing's wrong with him.
Well, he's struggling. Early in the season, struggling, right?
Early season jitters.
The Blue Jays are relying on their pitching to really be a big piece this year, right?
Last year.
All right, so
they've improved their pitching. They have, and it's showing. The back end is there. They've got a consistent closer, probably one of the best closers in the league, consistently. Some of the guys like Kikuchi, who was really struggling all season last year, has had some very, very good turnouts. Alek Manoah is not a guy that we should be worrying about. I think that we have the offense to be able to, like pull pitchers out of bad situations throughout the season. And we found ourselves both the games. So Alek Manoah's first game was against, can't quite remember, but it was the opener, St. Louis.
Yeah.
And St. Louis is one of the best teams this year, I think. And they just faced his second or third start was against Tampa Bay, which is just now coming off of a
league record.
A league record for season start.
Well, they broke that up though, didn't they?
The Jays did twice in a row. And then the third game was a poor outing from Alek Manoah, but also the rest of the offense. So I don't know. I think that's too much. They've played 2 or 3 games. I think there's a long way to go for a guy who was a Cy Young finalist last year and an all-star.
Okay.
He's
so
guy. They're ace.
So before we get to Elliott and his Padres, really quickly here, early season assessment report card. You've come out of spring training. The Blue Jays are what they are right now. Where are your expectations for them for the season?
It's going to be a very fun season. They haven't had a guy in the outfield like Kevin Kiermaier in a long time. His defense, like they moved an all-star center fielder and George Springer over to right field because they had a guy like Kevin Kiermaier now. The addition of Dalton Varsho in left, he's a left hitter. Kiermaier's a lefty as well. Like they've added some incredible speed. Both of those guys are really great throughout the lineup on the bases. Their hitting percentage is good. Bo Bichette's the highest. He's got the highest batting.
Boba Fett plays for them?
Boba Fett's got the highest batting average.
Wow.
Right now.
He's allowed to wear the whole like Mandalorian outfit, or
he's a pretty impressive Jedi out there.
No, he's a bounty hunter. Anyway, Elliott. That's enough about the Blue Jays.
Let me finish.
That's enough about the Blue Jays.
No, it's going to be a really exciting season.
No.
And there's a hot dog teeter-totter in the ballpark. Did you know that?
I did not know that. Now I do. Fantastic news. Are they selling pickles on sticks yet?
No, just hot dogs.
Tim will be devastated.
It'll be exciting.
There's a really long callback for those dedicated listeners there. Pickles on a stick. All right, Elliott. Tee us up here. Tee us up? No, that's golf. Your balls are up, Elliott. We have baseball being played in San Diego by some swinging Friars. What's your preseason into the beginning of the regular season evaluation and report card for your beloved Padres?
Here's what I would say to both of you. I think we have essentially in the baseball season played the equivalent of what would be in the NFL 1 week of games. So it is still very, very, very early to be making any determinations about anything. Alek Manoah, the Blue Jays, Padres. That being said, pardon?
You think they'll be in the
that being said, the sky is falling in San Diego. The team is 8-9. Everyone expects them to be much better than they have been as to this point. And there's some concerns about pitching, which was their strong suit last year. That being said, it's everything's always kind of calamitous in San Diego. San Diego treats the Padres very much the way the Edmonton treats the Oilers, in that it's like when it's high, it's really high, and when it's low or average, it's really low. And so I think like that we're still sort of sorting things out. Tatis is coming back. Soto's sort of figuring it out. That this team is better than the one that played last year, and the one that played last year, we all know what it did into the off season. So I think we're there. It's a little too early to tell. What I love is the impact that these new rules in baseball have had. It's finally bearable to watch baseball again. I watched parts of all 3 Jays games this weekend.
Parts.
And enjoyed it while I was doing it.
Please tell me when you say that you don't mean you watch parts of Jays and 30, like 5 minutes.
No. I watched parts of the game. No, I watched parts of the game. I imagine Jays and 30s has become a lot easier to cut up now too.
Yeah.
No, so there's a lot more excitement. I think there's far less throwing the ball directly and the back and forth between the pitcher and the first baseman, trying to pick someone off. Way more. Their steals are up. The game is going faster. All of the intended consequences have occurred in the major leagues, and I think it's great for baseball. I think it was the perfect time for the rule change coming off. The excitement of baseball's back, baby.
Nice. All right. Well, we've got another 400 or 500 games to be played for each of these two teams throughout the rest of this season in the world's longest and most drawn out season of sports. So we'll have lots of time to talk about it soon. We have lots of time to talk about the NHL playoffs. Hopefully, lots of time to talk about the Oilers in the playoffs, because we all have our fingers and our toes and every other part of our body you can crossed, hoping that it is a fun and long spring of Oiler hockey. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We really do appreciate it, as always. If you haven't already, please subscribe, share it with a friend, pass it along. If you haven't also, you should check out the Oilers hype video that we did here. I know Elliott and I talked about it a couple weeks ago. We're up to almost 45,000 views. So if you're one of the many people who have taken the time to watch it, thank you. Watch it again, share it with your friends. It'll get you all psyched up and ready to go for round 1 of the playoffs. And who knows, if we keep going to the playoffs, maybe some more videos appear. No promises. It's up to the Oilers players right now that they determine everything for us and a lot of our emotional state for the rest of the month of April into May. Maybe June. Okay, that's it for us. Thank you. And that was Hat Trick. Hat Trick is a member of the Ordinary Podcasting Network. It's produced every week by Jordan Dowler Coltman and Braydon Dowler Coltman. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.
The Ordinary Podcasting Network wishes to acknowledge that the lands on which our conversations take place include Treaty 6 territory, the traditional meeting ground and home for many Indigenous peoples, including the Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, and the Nakota Sioux peoples, as well as the unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations.
We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for generations. And we extend our appreciation for the opportunity to live, create, and share stories on these territories.
The Ordinary Podcasting Network intends to engage in conversations and dialogue which acknowledge that reconciliation is not a destination, but a journey, and that we remain committed to practicing our craft in a decolonized space.